A political crisis was growing in Europe since the First Balkan War of 1912, and it favored the plans of the Polish national movement. Józef Podolski, previously a Russian prisoner in Siberian exile, planned to organize a Polish military squad within the Austro-Hungarian army. Counting on the outbreak of a Polish uprising in the Polish kingdom caused by war between Austria-Hungary and Russia, on the eve of the Great War, Galicia became the base for political and Polish independence activity. On the 30th of July 1914, Józef Podolski announced, with the acceptance of the Austrian command, the mobilization of the Riflemen Squad. Expecting war to erupt quickly between Austria-Hungary and Prussia, he planned to invade the Kingdom of Poland with the Riflemen and to provoke an outbreak of an uprising against Russian rule. For the Podolski, complete success would have meant the occupation of Warsaw before the Central Powers and their armies and the Central Powers could even arrive. He also wanted to announce the establishment of a national government in Warsaw. On the 3rd of August in Krakow, the first cadre company was formed with 144 riflemen, which were mainly students. Podolski defined them in his short speech as Polish soldiers, revealing his true and future tasks for these men. The creation of cadres for the future Polish army. On the 6th of August 1914, the Habsburg monarchy declared war on Russia. The first company marched towards Krakow, from Krakow towards the Austro-Russian border, and entered the Kingdom of Poland. The territorial base for the development of the Polish statehood was situated in the area between the Austrian border and the city of Kielce, which had been in the Russian partition part of Poland. Forming an army was the first stage of the process of reconstructing Poland. In the independent Podolski state, one principle took first place, which Podolski had announced to his officers in a briefing: to proceed as if the Austrian power did not exist. Despite the Russian conquest, the Russian advance, and the Russian devastation of Kielce on the 12th of August, the expected uprising against Russian rule did not happen due to fear of Russian vengeance and Cossack vengeance. Facing the early failure of the plan to provoke a Polish uprising, the Austrian authorities soured on the idea of a Podolski's riflemen and demanded their disbanding. However, the riflemen were saved by quick action by Galician politicians, who on the 16th of August announced the creation of the Chief National Committee on the Nazale Komity Narodowe, or the NKN. This group filled the role of the political representation for Polish forces, which could exist in the form of so-called legions, subordinate to Austria-Hungary and France. Two legions came into being: the Eastern Legion in Lvov and the Western Legion in Krakow. Podolski took over the command of the 1st Regiment, also known as the 1st Brigade of the Legion. Legion myth portrayed Podolski soldiers as exiles who were forced by Russians to leave their homeland, the Kingdom of Poland, or the Russian Partition Poland, like Podolski himself. Supported by their comrades from Galicia, they returned as heroes for the fight for Polish independence and a Polish state. For the propaganda purposes, Podolski exaggerated the difficulties caused by his powerful enemies. In Podolski's opinion, the company had been badly armed and even equipped. According to the reminiscence of one of his members, however, this was not the case. The equipment, the stores of ammunition, and the complete uniform, the Grey Rifleman's summer uniform, or summer tunic, distinguished the 1st Cadre Company from other units, especially the handsomely stricken Bosniaks, the Bohemians of Czech society, and of course, the Croatians. Podolski's propaganda contrasted the riflemen as the leaders for the fight for Polish independence with the silent and yet passive majority of Polish society, which did not want to risk actively opposing or even trying to oppose Russian Tsarism. The liberation of Kielce became a symbol for the loneliness of the riflemen heroes, ignored by their own fellow countrymen who closed their shutters instead of welcoming the Polish soldiers with jubilation, open arms, and of course rice and flowers, and any other Polish staple. Pierogies, my friends? The reality was considerably more complicated than you may think, though the symptoms of reluctance towards the riflemen were visible, so truth to the propaganda. The 1st Company became the foundation for the cadres of the future Polish army. 13 of its soldiers attained the rank of general between 1918 and 1945. The formation also distinguished itself with the predominant number of recruits from the intelligentsia. A large number of poets and even artists among the riflemen helped to create its own legend and myth of Poland. The image of the riflemen highlighted the youth and energy and announced the glowing vision for the future of the Polish state. In the years of 1914 to 1916, about 30,000 to 35,000 of the 1st Brigade soldiers served on the front lines of World War I. Thanks to the Legion, Podolski became the true leader, whose important role was fully valued and vilified in Berlin and Vienna. He knew the most important thing was to minimize the Polish losses and casualties, as their sacrifice would not improve the political position of Poland. Podolski supported the idea of the legions until the Russians had been visibly defeated. When he changed his attitude towards the Central Powers at the end of 1916, he began to then liquidate the legions, as they were formations that could be used by the Austrians and the Germans to influence Polish politics. Legion legend has it, and portrays the effectiveness of Podolski's faction in the fight against the Tartopor and the passivity of Polish society during the First World War. The legions were said to shatter indifference, cultural boundaries, socio-economical boundaries, and even linguistic boundaries, teaching the Poles to think and act as patriots and Poles yet again. The unusual fate of the legions and their commandant seems to confirm the truth to this myth. Podolski was arrested and imprisoned in Germany, where he could only wait for a better future. The remaining legionnaires were imprisoned in internment camps or were conscripted in the Austro-Hungarian army. This defeat was transformed into a total victory with the collapse of the Central Powers in the autumn of 1918. It caused a rapid end to the occupation of Poland and the rebirth of Poland. Though in 1920 Podolski had already been designated as the great builder of our motherland, it was only in the second half of the decade where the cult expressions such as the builder of Poland, the resurrector of Poland, the creator of Polish freedom, and the creator of independence predominated. The history for the fight for independence was dominated by Józef Podolski and the 1st Brigade, which diminishes the role of the 2nd Brigade, the 1st Polish Corps of Józef Dobrał-Murzyniki, and the Blue Army of Józef Haller. Before the May coup d'etat of 1926 in Poland, there was further discussion about the process of regaining independence. The social response to legionary tradition was even ambiguous. In the years of 1933 to 1934, where Big Bad Man took power over there was a dispute in Poland about the words of the 1st Brigade song. Podolski's followers wanted to include the lyrics of the national anthem, Jesnek Polska nie zginęła, or Poland is not yet lost, but they were not successful. On the 6th of August, the date of the 1st Cadre Company's departure from Krakow in 1914, became a holiday exclusively for Podolski's followers. On the 6th of August, the day the 1st Cadre Company departed from Krakow in 1914, actually became a holiday exclusively for the Podolski's followers. The celebration was directed only at the combatants of the 1st Brigade, without the volunteers or even the veterans of the 2nd, the 3rd Brigade, or even the legions of the East and the West. There were even additional disputes about the proper date of Polish independence, which was not celebrated until 1926, until the end of the Second Polish Republic in 1939. The memory of the events of 1914 to 1918 divided society more than united them until 1989 again. After the rebirth of the Polish state on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th, 1918, or the 11th of November 1918, Józef Podolski filled the role of temporary chief of state for Poland. In the years between 1918 to 1920, the battles of the Vistula, as well as between 1926 and 1935, when Podolski filled the role as leader of the new state, were also the years of reconstruction for the new Polish historical consciousness and identity. The myth of the leading and the solitary role of the Podolski legions were underestimating other military units and even undermining them, and it not only simplified and falsified the views of the latest events or the last events of 1914 to 1918, but also built a narrow picture of the whole 19th century. Given such a situation, Podolski's legend quickly found its opponents, who were actually people who fought for Polish independence, who countered with the roles of the leaders of the national democracy, Roman Dmowski, and other Polish military leaders such as Dobrał-Murzyniki and Haller, in the decisive battle for the freedom of the state. The discussion lasted until the outbreak of the Second World War and deeply divided the political entities and society, even until Ponto Alozowski and Wolowski freed them yet again in 1989. So, what do you think? Did Podolski did it all himself? Should Haller and Murzyniki deserve more credit? Should I sound better? Does this sound better to you? It's a bit laid back and it's a bit boring, but it's the best I could do, guys. I don't want to sound too hyper and then it's all over the place. I want to have a consistency, so We start like this, and then, you know, if we get excited, if there's a cool battle, if there's somebody bayoneting, charging, and killing them as they look into their eyes, that's when we get hyped. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed. Tell me what you think about Polish. Tell me what you think about the Poles, and do not bring up Auschwitz or Nuremberg or even Dachau. But even until 1945, and even the Polish uprising of 1945, even up until they went to Auschwitz and Birkenau, and even saw the deaths by their own Slavic brothers in the forest of Zamulka, or the forest where the Soviets killed a lot of Polish officers, they were still divided. Poldowski, the end-all, be-all, or the be-all, end-all, or the Muziniki, Hola, and even the women of the Polish society who gave and sheltered these men. Who was the real father of independence? Let me tell you, it was every single Pole, from your great-grandmother up until Józef Poldowski. Everyone played a part in the foundation of the state which ruled all of Central Europe and was partitioned by 3 empires: Germany, Austria, that before turned into Austria-Hungary, and Russia. They were now Poland at last. And even though for most of their life they were occupied by Germany and then the Soviet Union, they regained their independence and now are only second or third to Germany in the EU, and still define the EU. Anyway guys, learn something and I hope you enjoy. So